Extreme Collectibles here with Wolverine episode 11. If you're new or you just have a short-term memory, I'm reviewing all of the Wolverine statues that I own and all the ones that I have coming in. So this is the 11th in that series. If you want to check out some of the other ones, go ahead and check the playlist on my YouTube channel. But we're going to dive right in, Freudian slip. We're going to dive right into this piece because this piece is huge. That's what she said. Extreme Collectibles here on Wolverine episode 11. This is a custom piece, so as a reminder, we do not talk about where customs come from. This is a custom quarter scale Wolverine X23 diorama. So if you're new to statue collecting or you don't even know what statue collecting is, just as a reminder, quarter scale means it's 1/4 the size it should be. If you had a child that was 4 feet tall, he would be a 1 foot tall statue. Diorama insinuates it's more than just the original character. I purchased this right when it came out about a year ago or so. It was around $1,200 shipping if I recall correctly, and I love Wolverine. This is an awesome representation of X23, so I had to add it to my collection. I didn't realize it was going to be this big. That's what she said. Every time I get a statue, I never realize how big it's going to be because space is our enemy as collectors, and wives and money. So this came in do you ever get that? You just don't know. For the record, I never plan what I'm going to say on these reviews. It just comes out. I was trying to see if that would work with that's what she said. It just comes out. Well, kind of. So I don't remember the packaging this came in. Unfortunately, there was a casualty. My favorite Wolverine head, the one I have displayed here, has some nicks in his hair that were broken off. The pieces were there, but it was too hard to try and repair. I probably have them somewhere. I did contact the commissioner a couple times. He said he'd take care of me. He never did. That's kind of the risk you have with both customs and even licensed. Sideshow, I have 4 broken pieces that they won't even reply to me on. So, one single box. The edition size is 35, so only 35 of these were made, which is the reason I wanted to do the review. You don't see too many videos of this piece. Came with a number of switch outs, mainly the heads on both characters. So let's start with Wolverine. First is the battle damaged head that I have that's actually really damaged, which is my favorite. And I display them up high for now, so it kind of covers that up. The other one is your traditional sculpted, or not sculpted, masked Wolverine with his cowl on. His mouth open a little bit, very cool. And then lastly is an unmasked, non-battle damaged piece for Wolverine. X23, the one I've been displaying, is kind of her menacing, closed mouth, unmasked version. Then she also has a masked version, which looks pretty cool. And lastly, she has an unmasked, almost like a younger with makeup. One cool thing, I like almost all of these, so I should switch them out more. I never know what to do with my switch outs. I probably should do it more often. But so that's a little bit of background about the piece, and let's just dive right into concept and design. So Wolverine and X23, father and daughter, are fighting side by side. It looks like the future. It looks like it's a Sentinel war. There's some Sentinel pieces from armor plating to possible fingers. There's some broken guns below. There's a lot going on with the base. It's going to be hard to talk about. They're both lunging forward in attack mode. They have all their claws out. X23 also has her foot claw out, which I love when they do that with an X23 statue. Their portraits are both menacing, very fierce, getting their shit done. So very cool concept. I like the design of it. One thing I really don't like, which I think they went too far, is the cables. So these are actual cables. They're that you would like wire cables. I think they actually are. Yeah, almost like speaker wire with casing around them, and they are kind of all over the place, and there's not really a lot of direction on where to put where, but there's actually some indentions in Wolverine where the cables should go to kind of give you an idea, but I don't like how they did that. It doesn't fit very well, it's not very tight, and so it's not true to the sculpt, so I think that was kind of a miss. I like the concept, but the design and the execution wasn't the best on it. Some other cool things we're going to talk about during the sculpt, but overall, cool concept, cool design with a 2-character. I wish they would have cut down the base a little more. For example, right here on this front piece, this could have gone away to save some room with, you know, no issue whatsoever, because I think there's a few misses with sculpt and design on the base too, so some useless area. But otherwise, very cool concept, very cool design. Starting at the base, this would take a long time to really talk about everything that's going on, so I'm going to kind of briefly go through it and just show some pictures and you can make your own opinions. But I think the swampy, rocky aspect of the base, especially with the paint, is a complete miss. It doesn't look that good. It doesn't look like vines growing. It looks plasticky. It looks cheap. I think that they could have done a much better job. One of the parts I really do like about the base is some of the things they added. For example, the gun underneath Wolverine's feet, that's very, very cool. How he has it broken in half, and it's you know, battle damaged. I like the Sentinel aspects of the base, not only the what I assume are fingers, but the armor plates, and I think the paint did a good job. It really shows kind of wear and tear. You know, it has some dark grays and some other coppers and silvers around the gears and the coils. Some liquid on the base too, which is almost this translucent green type resin liquid, which again kind of points to the fact that they're in a swamp of some type, or it could be green liquid that is spilling out from inside the Sentinel. I'm not really sure. But overall, as you see, the paint job on the base itself, very, very cheap to me. It doesn't look the best. The actual base, not the Sentinel parts. So I think it's kind of a miss there, and I could talk all day about the base, but as you see, there's some other cool aspects of it too, of the Sentinel pieces, and as I go through this, there's some things on here that I originally missed when I got it. So on a side note, I really like doing these reviews for myself because it gives me a little bit more appreciation for the statues or things that I just forgot over time. But anyway, let's just jump into the characters next. I'll tackle Wolverine first. So Wolverine, first of all, starting at his bottom, not his bottom. I have children, so butt, bottom, arse, it's all the same. Starting at his lower torso, I'm not a fan. So first of all, I'm not a fan of the sculpt. First, his boots almost look way too big. They look too clunky. There is some decent texture in there, but nothing great. If you look at his thighs going up, I'm not sure what they were trying to do with the paint. They tried to do a darker orange on the yellows where the creases would be, but it just doesn't look right to me. Something looks off on it. But again, they have that nice texture. And then moving to his shorts, so I think this is a miss. Traditionally, Wolverine has that outside underwear. These almost look like shorts, and the paint and the sculpt on them is very average. Moving up to Wolverine's torso, again, his muscles look weird. The anatomy is not the best. It's not the worst anatomy I've ever seen. It's just okay, and I don't like how, especially on the back, they mixed in those paint colors of the orange with the yellow. Moving on to Wolverine's arms, his hands seem a little bit bigger in proportion than they should be, but otherwise there's a decent sculpt on them, and they maintain that same texture throughout his whole uniform. I think that's what's throwing me off. It's the same exact texture on his gloves, on his boots, on his legs. It's just very interesting. But his fingers look abnormally large. They look about the size of half of his face. So again, some anatomy issues. His arm, there's some good muscles, some good muscle definition. They tried to put some hair in there with some paint and some sculpt, but I think there's a big miss. The veins look very good, and I like the different colors of hues they put in the veins, and the flesh tones on the arms look good too. And looking at his portrait, I think they did a good job on the portraits. I like how the flesh tones are very natural. I like how the sculpt around his eyes and his teeth and his chin, where it's very menacing, look very natural too. The hair is an okay job. It doesn't look like individualized strands. I think they could have done better on that. The paint, as I said, on the face, especially the battle damage face, looks really good. Kind of gives you that Arnold Schwarzenegger T-1000 look. And then the last thing on Wolverine, I guess two things I missed here. First, his belt, and that kind of coincides with his shorts that were overdone. The paint job and the sculpt are a little bit of a miss. They're too mixed in together. It doesn't look like a real belt. But then his claws, they put some blood splatter on the claws, which doesn't make sense to me if they're fighting Sentinels, so it doesn't really follow the storyline. And the blood isn't the best painted blood on claws I've seen for Wolverine. I think there was some opportunity missed there. And that kind of falls on the paint on his left arm too. Doesn't look the best for the blood. X23, moving on to her. So first of all, again, starting at her lower torso, I do like what they did with her boots and her buckles. It's one solid color, so there's not really a lot of variation. And the bottom of her boots, there was some opportunity, the side, I'm sorry, not the bottom, but the side of her boots, there was some opportunity for it to make it look a little bit better. It almost looks like she's wearing Pee Wee Herman boots. You know which one I'm talking about? I'm sure there's a name for them, where the soles are like 4 inches tall. Kind of an interesting choice there. And then her blades coming out of her feet, they have a different color of blood on them than Wolverine, which kind of mystifies me, so I don't know why the blood wouldn't be the same. But moving up her torso, the body very similar. There's not really a lot of definition. There's some folds in the sculpt, which is nice, but kind of that solid black matte color. Then moving on to the flesh tones of X23, a little too much pink in there, almost like she's sunburned, but I do like the sculpt they did on her. They show a lot of definition in her abs, especially, without giving her too muscular, too much of a six-pack. And then moving on to the sculpt of her hands and her fingers, where she has closed fists, it's a little bit mixed together, and I don't know if that's not enough definition in the sculpt or the paint, but it looks a little, it's not fabulous in the details like the portraits are. The X23's top looks very good. There's some texture on it. There's some good distinguishment between her clothing and not the clothing, both in the sculpt and the paint. And that same distinguishment follows on her arms and her gloves. So I think they did a good job on that. As you see here too, there's a mixed media piece for her belt, which I don't know if I'm a fan of or not. It's okay. Then X23's hair, and it's like this with all the portraits, they did a really good job. It has this nice natural flowness to it. It's that time of month. Has this nice natural flowness to it, and there's individualized strands. I think they could have done a little bit of shading instead of that solid black to give a more variety to the statue, because her costume's black. But I like how the different strands go all over the place, including on her face. X23's portrait on all of them, I like a lot. I think, just like Wolverine, they really nailed the portraits. I think there's good definition in the sculpt, showing the menacing glare on the face. They could have done a little bit better job on the paint job for her eyes and her eyebrows. It looks a little plain. But her mouth, fabulous job, not only with the sculpt, but the paint showing that really menacing sneer. That's a summary of my thoughts on this piece. I think there's a lot of things done really, really well that I like, including the portraits and some of the Sentinel pieces and the concept and the design. Then I think there's a lot of opportunity, specifically with the anatomy and the paint on both characters. But overall, very happy with the piece. I'm definitely going to keep it for a while. I'm excited at Sideshow's X23 because I think Sideshow's Wolverine knocks it out of the park. That's also one of my Wolverine episodes. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. But I will review Sideshow X23 when it comes in, and maybe that could take the place of this and I'll sell this. I don't know though. Like I said, there's some parts I really, really like about this where I would never sell it, and then some things, might be able to let it go. Nice thing it is such a low edition size, so it is a rare piece. I really appreciate you watching. Go ahead and check out my other Wolverine episodes. I got a lot coming these in the month of March. Check out my March happenings video, which will be landing on March 1st for all the POs coming in that we will review. I don't know why I say we. Maybe there's more than one of me inside of here. Anyway, appreciate you watching. Take care.